which of the following leaf modifications occurs in desert areas to inhibit water loss? Okay. First is hard and waxy leaves. Hard and waxy leaves. Yeah. So leaf. So in any leaf, the larger the surface area. So what should I say? In any leaf, surface area, or I should put it this way. Sorry, transpiration from the leaf is directly proportional to the surface area. Do you all agree? Yeah, it is. Now, tiny leaves. So based on this logic, I know for sure that tiny leaf for surely is the, yeah, cactus is all three. You're right. Cactus, perhaps tiny leaves it may not have because it does not have leaves itself. So tiny leaves. So tiny leaves means less surface area. So less surface area means less transpiration. So to me, for sure, 2 looks like a right option. Thorns instead of leaves. Now, thorns instead of leaves is still further a severe adaptation. Yeah, it's, some of you may have studied. Thorns in place of leaves is a still more severe form of adaptation. So I know for sure that 2 is also right, 3 is also right. Hard and waxy leaves. Do you remember in the class we discussed a term called cuticle? How many of you remember this? We discussed this term called cuticle, a thick waxy outer layer. So what does this cuticle do? The cuticle makes sure that there is no evapotranspiration. There is no transpiration basically. So in this case, looks like to me that all the 3 statements are correct. Yeah. So in terms of categorization of question, I would call this question as purely concept. Okay. So this, if you remember, I had divided environment into 3 parts. I said basic concepts. Then I talked about biodiversity. Then I said there is one big thing on pollution, global warming, and climate change. And I also said that this is something like 50, biodiversity is 40, basics is 10. Now, between biodiversity, pollution, global warming, and climate change, some part of it, agriculture also comes in. Yeah, agriculture, I'm not taking it separately, but I'm subsuming it partly in biodiversity and partly in pollution, global warming, and climate change. Okay, so this is how it is. So this question has actually come from this part, the basic part. So if we've understood the basic, we would have had no problem in answering this question. So the answer is D. Let's move on to the next question. How is the National Green Tribunal different from the Central Pollution Control Board? So they are looking now this, in this case, now under which category does it come in terms of basic biodiversity? So this is under pollution, global warming, climate change, direct question, yeah, which is our 50%. And we spent a lot of time in that. National Green Tribunal different from Central Pollution Control Board. So now guys, maybe you could just let me know what you think. NGT has been established by an act. Act means Act of Parliament. CPCB has been created by an executive order. Okay, so what we are saying is one of them is a statutory organization, whereas the other is not. Any thoughts on this? Anyone based on what we have studied? So if you have, I hope that you would have been given the notes. So please go back, at least in your PPT, you can just do a very quickly do a Control F and, and search CPCB in all the places. You will find that when we talked about the National Water Act, yeah, at that time itself, we have mentioned exactly Water Act. So both are statutory. Excellent, guys. So both are statutory. So clearly statement 1 is incorrect. So statement 1 is incorrect. Which means what do I know? I know for sure that this is gone and this is gone. So now I have to look at statement 2 to figure out whether statement 2 is correct or that is also incorrect. Okay. The NGT provides environmental justice, and helps reduce the burden of litigation in the higher courts. Remember, go back to our class, NGT. Why was NGT formed? When already High Court and Supreme Court were there. Go back to the slide on NGT, you'll get a direct answer to this. Whereas CPCB promotes cleanliness of streams and wells and aims to improve the quality of air in the country. So what do you think of statement 2, guys? Any thoughts on statement 2? At least what does it appear to be? Broadly, true, correct, incorrect, correct. So Prachi and Anand say it is correct. Perfect, it is correct. So which means in this question, the answer is B, that is 2 only. Yeah. So this luckily we have very directly taken, if you go back to our notes, you can actually see this statement also. Because why? Because I'd actually gone to the NGT website and taken it why it was established. The third one. This is actually a geography question. I may have just erred on the side of caution by putting it too lengthy, generalistic, therefore mostly correct. So Anand is giving a logic. Yeah, fair enough, Anand. Too lengthy, generalistic, so mostly correct. Okay. Which of the following has shrunk or dried up immensely in the recent past due to human activities? So once again, don't get too worried, Ari. I don't know this at all. What you can see, it's a 2018 paper. So something must have come in the newspaper. Okay, something must have come in the newspaper. So this is one of those questions that if you were in 2018 and studying the current affairs of 2017, most probably you should have got it correct. But otherwise, it's a very factual, dry, geography-based question. Okay. Now, the only challenge I found when I myself was trying to solve this question was that several times in newspaper in the past, I have seen not just Aral Sea, but also Lake Baikal, which is drying up. Yeah. But unfortunately, the UPSC key says one only. Yeah. So it's quite possible that a guy may have overanalyzed and he may, and the problem is they also have an option of 1 and 3. Yeah. So this is one of those times when you feel, maybe when you look up to God and ask him, why me? Yeah. Yeah. Logic is more lakes shrink. Yeah. Lake Baikal has also shrunk considerably. In fact, I read a couple of articles, and some of the articles were dated before 2018. So I was a little confused why the UPSC was saying A, but then they don't really provide explanation. So you may have such questions, yeah. So don't get too flustered if yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are articles regarding shrinking of Lake Baikal, and I saw an article in one of the Indian newspapers before 2018. So I really am not sure why they have given us RLC, but this can happen, guys. Okay. So the point I'm trying to drive home is, despite your best of preparation and attempting correctly, it is possible that you may miss the correct option by a whisker. Correct as in correct from a UPSC perspective. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but that is how it is. Yeah. So just be prepared for this also. That is why the cutoff is not like 160 or 170 for prelims. The cutoff is like 95 and 100, taking into consideration questions like this, which will have questionable answer keys. Okay. Let's look at the next question. So IR also, wherever it was relevant, I thought let's also analyze some questions. Very recently, in which of the following countries have lakhs of people? You're right, Arun. Probably immensely is the key. One could say that, but immensely is highly subjective, no? And if you look at the number of articles in for Baikal, it is on par with the number of articles in Aral. But you are right. The keyword immensely matters, and Aral shrinking image is in NCERT. You are right, Vaibhav, because Aral has been shrinking since 1980s. Baikal is a relatively recent phenomena. But then, if you have looked at the question, they are saying recent past. Now, I always had a problem with UPSC whenever they use the word recent. I would think recent is 2 months. Someone may think it is 2 years. But in this case, they're actually talking of 3 decades. Now, by what definition is 3 decades recent? I don't know. Yeah. In fact, when it comes to recent, I will tell you the story of my interview and how this word messed up my interview also. The interview didn't really go well. Okay, the first 5 minutes itself, there were a couple of questions which I couldn't answer. So in one of the questions they asked at that point in time, 2008, I was attending the interview in the month of April. So they asked me that, do you know a case where very recently? So this is how the member put the question. Mr. Uday, do you know very recently? Do you know an incident where a civil servant was harmed very recently? Okay, and because he stressed the word very recently, I knew that 2 years before, it was a very unfortunate incident that a DM of a district, he was lynched by a mob in Bihar. Yeah, I knew that incident very well because it was all over the newspaper. But because he said very recently, I was looking for the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Okay, and I did not have the confidence to say that, are you referring to that also? Yeah, but so this can happen. So just be cautious whenever they use the word recent. Yeah, if it is a mains, sorry, if it is a interview, ask for a clarification. Yeah, if it is prelims, you can go back as much as you want, even as much as 3 decades as it looks like. Okay, so that's one small story on this recent thing. Okay. Yeah, that's right, Bishanjit. But problem is all of us agreeing with each other is not solving the problem. They have given the key and they have gone. But yeah, I mean, let's live with it. Yeah. So whatever you call UPSC, we just have to live with it. Maybe there will be a time when they not just declare the answer key, but they also give the explanation, and they give it maybe within 1 week of the examination. And now they give it 1 year later. Anyway, so let's move on. Yeah, very recently, which of the following countries have lakhs of people died? Lakhs of people either suffered from severe. So let's look at the keyword, guys, again. See, again, my same problem very recently. Okay. Which of the following countries have lakhs? Okay. So they're giving you a sense of proportion. Either suffered from, either means one of the two conditions. If it is satisfied, then we can go for it. Either suffered from severe famine, acute malnutrition, or died due to starvation caused by war or ethnic conflicts. Now look at it. One thing I'll tell you guys, how much ever they say, UPSC says that we want to prefer people who are from rural India. We want to prefer people who may have studied in their own language, be it Hindi or Tamil. If you look at today's essay paper, I was disappointed because I could not understand in sometimes the English itself was difficult. I believe before writing the essay, a person has to understand 100% of the English, the grammar, the sentence construction, because it can be very subtle. So there is a slight advantage that people who know Hindi have is that if they don't understand the English, they can just look at the Hindi. And Hindi may give you a better clue sometimes. Oh, okay, this is what it means. Okay. For example, I remember this in one of my essays, there was this term called women empowerment. Okay, though I thought that my English is reasonably good, but somehow I did not know the meaning of wither. Okay, luckily I knew Hindi to read and write Hindi, so it was something like women emancipation is what Mahila something is or. Matlab, where is it going? Oh, then I realized, oh, okay, so this is what they mean by wither women empowerment. So then I was able to write a better essay because I could read Hindi in this case. Okay, so those who do not have Hindi, do not know Hindi, and who are not really good in English, sometimes face a problem in essay. Okay, so please, now you can't fight with the system. Yeah, the word itself are very perplexing. Today's essay, so I really don't know whether they want administrators or whether they want philosophers. So it looked like to me that they wanted philosophers. Anyway, guys, I think doesn't matter. See, all said and done, the beauty of the system is at the end of the day, it's relative performance, right? They are not saying that if you have to get above 100 in the essay. They are not saying it. Maybe you get 90, but you do extremely well in your optional paper. So to that extent, they give you a long road. Essay messed up doesn't matter. You have GS paper on. GS paper on messed up doesn't matter. You can do GS paper 2. So you have a lot of options to prove yourself. That's one way to look at the UPSC examination. Yeah, so it is not one paper that is determining. It is overall preparation. Yeah, is to check the moral and the determination of the aspirant. Yeah, is to check the whether the motivation level and the determination. More importantly, determination of the aspirant. Okay, good. Yeah, so let's come back to this question. Have lakhs of people. So I think if I were an aspirant, I would have definitely underlined the word lakhs. They're not talking of hundreds or thousands. They're saying lakhs. Okay. Now this is a 2018 question. Okay. Now let's go one by one. The first one is Angola and Zambia. Okay, so Angola and Zambia, both of them are Africa. Morocco and Tunisia, again Africa. Venezuela and Colombia is South America. Yemen and South Sudan. So this is one is Asia, as in Middle East, and South Sudan is Africa. Okay. Now what I'll do is suffered from severe famine or acute malnutrition. Now I don't have a clue about many African countries, but I knew, in my younger days, or you guys in your younger days, you must have heard the news and you have found that there was this country called Rwanda, which satisfied both the criteria. By the way, there was a war, ethnic conflict, and also a famine, but that is not in any of the options. So okay. Then the next country I was able to remember is a country called Ethiopia. But Ethiopia is also not there. Then I think a little bit. Okay, first let me go to Morocco and Tunisia. I don't know if you're aware, Tunisia is considered as one of the most progressive countries of the entire Africa and the Muslim world. Yeah. So some of these revolutions, so-called Orange revolutions, if you know, where there was a sudden eruption of pro-democracy movement on the street. So Tunisia is considered as a fairly progressive country. Yeah. So you have Orange Revolution, Velvet Revolution, Arab Spring. Thank you, Abhishek. So I was struggling for the word Arab Spring. So the Arab Spring started in Tunisia, okay, in 2013. So Tunisia is unlikely to be either lakhs of people died, ethnic conflict, so surely nahi, because Tunisia is, all said and done, there was a protest. I even don't know if people died, but there was a transition towards democracy. So I will strike off this. I'll strike off. Let me come to Venezuela and Colombia. Venezuela and Colombia, the first thing that you can think of is, drug lords. Colombia had a very dangerous drug lord by the name Pablo Escobar. But just because they have a drug lord, does it mean lack of people have died due to severe famine? Unlikely. Was there a war or ethnic conflict? The drug cartels give a serious fight to the drug enforcement agencies. Yeah, means they have an army which is comparable to the state itself. But have lakhs of people died? By no stretch of imagination, lakhs of people have died. Same with Venezuela. Venezuela is one of the, unfortunately, most volatile economically. They've had inflations in 4 digits, 3 digits, 150% inflation, stagflation, if you have studied in economics. Yeah. So Venezuela has all the economic problems that you can think of, but still it does not satisfy these 2 criteria. So I will kind of strike off Venezuela and Colombia also. Okay. Now I have Angola and Zambia. I'll have Yemen and South Sudan. Okay. Now, if you maybe focus a little bit, you must have observed this a little bit. South Sudan. Oh, does it mean there is also a North Sudan? When I was growing up, I don't think I have ever looked at South Sudan. It was always Sudan. So this is an indication that it has broken away from its parent country. Just a clue. Just a clue. Maybe it doesn't help you, but just a clue. Then Yemen. Yemen as a country, for at least more than a decade now, has been highly volatile. Highly volatile. Yeah. So there is this rebel group called Houthi. I don't know how it is pronounced, but Houthi. Yeah, Houthi rebel. Now, Yemen looks like a possible thing about war and ethnic conflicts. Yeah. And South Sudan, if you go back to the newspaper, it is what is the distinction of South Sudan? It is considered as the most recently, as it's considered as a country which has become most recently independent, 2013. Yeah, so that's the unique thing about South Sudan. So in all, and have I heard anything bad about Angola and have I heard anything good about Angola and Zambia? I don't recollect. But have I heard anything bad about Angola and Zambia? Again, I don't recollect. But Yemen, I know for sure. Even if you guys have browsed through newspapers, you will find a lot of Indians were evacuated from Yemen and they have gone to Saudi Arabia, or people have come back and then Saudi Arabia and Yemen are in a conflict. Somewhere you would come across the term. Yeah. So with all this, by striking of Morocco and Tunisia, striking of Venezuela and Colombia, you are left with 50-50 option. Yeah. Then you maybe take a leap of faith and then choose Yemen and South Sudan. Otherwise, as Kalyan has rightly mentioned, they were anyway facing food crisis and they had a serious problem of ethnic conflict. There are 35 tribes dominant tribes in South Sudan, and 35 tribes, out of which only 2 or 3 were very dominant. So that caused a conflict with a lot of the other tribes. Okay, so the answer is B, Yemen and South Sudan. Yeah, so this question, even though it's not environment, I had taken this to tell you how painful sometimes the questions can be when it comes to map. Yeah, how painful it can be. This is one of those questions where you feel, yeah, where do I start with? Because Delhi longitude, yeah, is referring to Delhi longitude. If you quickly look at the map of India, yeah, you will know that okay, Bangalore is here, Hyderabad, Nagpur, Pune is like more on the western Ghats, leeway side of the western Ghats. So probably, suppose I have a very residual knowledge about the relative location of India map, I might probably cross Pune. Do you agree with me? Yeah, because it is on the leeway side of the Western Ghats. So leeway side of the Western Ghats, longitudinal wise, even if I have seen the map very limited amount of time, I can figure it out. But my real problem is here, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Nagpur. So how do we solve it? Does anyone has any what should I say idea on how to kind of solve this? Do you have any trick or something, or do you feel some knowledge is what will really help you? Any tricks here? I'll tell you what I tried. Okay, I was fairly sure I have traveled in train from Delhi to Bangalore. Okay, Indian Standard Meridian. Okay, but how does that make uh, oh, it actually helped to see the cities on map. Yeah, this answer I got wrong. Yeah, I did not look at the map, but based on my residual knowledge, I was able to eliminate Nagpur also. I was able to eliminate Nagpur. Somewhere I felt that Hyderabad is closest to Delhi. Yeah, somewhere I felt Hyderabad is closest is closest in longitude to Delhi, but the answer happens to be Bangalore. Yeah, so I was not prepared for it honestly, because I felt that Bengaluru is something which cannot be closed. All that you do is just look at the longitude of Delhi. What would be the longitude of Delhi, by the way? It should be 80 what? Which state IST passes through? No, but how is IST related to this? I'm not sure if IST will help you. So let's do one thing. Let's just look at Bangalore. You guys are able to see the map? We can't prepare actually. No, but then I agree with you, Arun. But what will you do? How will you, what is the approach? Yeah. So yeah, guys, I think here we have Bengaluru, we have somewhat here Hyderabad and Nagpur here. And are you able to see Delhi here? Delhi in this place? Now this makes it very clear. See, I was able to strike off Nagpur, but somewhere I fell for Hyderabad. Yeah, which again is very close to NCR, which is again very close to Delhi. But as you can see, it exactly is very close to. If you can eliminate two options, you can go for it. Exactly. I think that is all people will do. We'll hope that my 50-50 probability is better. And in this case, are you now able to see very clearly how Bengaluru is in the same longitude as Delhi? Yeah, I think that was a revelation for me. That was a revelation for me. Now I'll ask you another question, guys. I'll ask you another question. Okay. So between Bengaluru and Chennai, yeah, which one is farther away from the equator? Between Bengaluru and Chennai, is the question clear to you? Which one is farther away from the equator? Bengaluru is farther away from the equator. Okay. Bengaluru farther away from the equator. Chennai, okay. Prachi says Chennai, okay. Anyone else for Bengaluru or Chennai? Bengaluru. Yeah, Sagarika is a resident of Bengaluru. She says Bengaluru. Anand says Chennai. Shawnli says Chennai. Okay. So we seem to have a divided house. Let's look at it. Yeah. So let's look at it. Chennai to Bengaluru. How do you want? Do you want to go by car or walk? Let's walk down. Yeah. Now the interesting thing is, let me zoom it a little bit, because Tamil Nadu is considered as the south of the South India. Yeah. Therefore, by definition, we may think Chennai has to be closer to the equator. Yeah. So Chennai is here, and if you look at this, yeah, this okay, yeah. I think this is not giving us a clear picture. Let me do one thing. The latitude of Chennai, how much is it? Okay, so 13.08. Okay, 13.08 is latitude. 12.97. So the moral of the story is Chennai is northern as compared to Bangalore, which is kind of difficult to envisage. Yeah, because Chennai is considered as the southernmost of the states, which kind of defines South India for many of them. But Chennai is a little northern as compared to Bangalore. Therefore, the correct answer is Chennai is far away from the equator. So questions like this can always be troublesome. In fact, today I was for some reason searching for a distance between Hyderabad and Nagpur. See how I am reasonably good at maps. I'm not very good. I'm reasonably good at maps. I've lost touch. So somewhere in my mind, I was thinking the distance between Hyderabad to Nagpur will be comparable or maybe lesser than the distance between Nagpur to Raipur. Somehow the same thing. Oh, Nagpur is there, Hyderabad is there, it's just adjoining, but Raipur is far away. But when I actually, saw in the Google map, so Nagpur to Raipur is less than 300 kilometers, whereas Nagpur to Hyderabad is 500 kilometers. So I lost it by a factor of 50%. Yeah, that is why I keep stressing on the fact that whatever you, in fact, today I spoke to one of you, I kept saying whatever place you see in the news, just see it in the map and see the associated areas will always help you. Because these type of questions, no, you cannot analyze. Yeah, what will you analyze? You just cannot analyze. Either you know it or you don't know it. If you make a guess, you are most likely to be wrong. The way I was, whenever I had fair amount of confidence that it will be Hyderabad, and I was surprised to see that the answer is Bangalore. Okay, doesn't matter. Let's move ahead and then see how it goes further from here on. With reference to Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Yeah, so all these catchy words you should also remember for your prelims as well as for your mains here. Climate Smart Agriculture. Okay, they're talking of some climate smart agriculture. Which of the following statements are correct? Climate smart agriculture. Okay. Now again, 2018, we may not have heard of it, rightly so, doesn't matter. GAXA, let's say GAXA is an outcome of Climate Summit Partnership Summit held in Paris. Held in Paris in 2015. Okay. We studied Paris Agreement reasonably well. I don't remember teaching this to you, and I'm sure you don't remember hearing this from me. Okay, doesn't matter. So we'll put this as a question mark. You are not sure. Membership of GAXA does not create any binding obligation. This also we don't know. We don't know, right? Means whether it is legally binding or not binding, we don't know. India was instrumental in the creation of GAXA. So all three, we don't know. So what do? So in cricket, there is a term, no? You don't try to play all the balls. So certain balls are so-called well left. You let the keeper catch it. Now, but if even with the residual knowledge, if we are fairly confident, hey, Paris Agreement we discussed so thoroughly in the class here. Yeah, there was commitment on GHG emission reduction. There was commitment on improving the energy intensity. There was commitment on going renewable. This was not just for India. India had very specific goals. It was common for the world. Okay, that is the first thing. So maybe you may think, so how do you at least approach? How do you make an unattemptable question into 50-50? Because the crux of prelims is how do you make a 0% probability question into a 50-50 question, and how do you make a 50-50 question into a 100% probability question? So this is at the crux of clearing the prelims in very simple words. Find that keyword through which a 0 probability question suddenly becomes a 50-50. So let's take our chance. So I will say, no, I don't think we have discussed this in class. So let's assume that we've been taught properly, and maybe one is not there, these two are gone. Okay. Now comes 2. Now the beauty of this is, do I even have to spend time verifying whether 2 is correct or not? I don't have to spend time at all, right? Because in both the options 2 is there. The only thing that I need to spend time on is 2 and whether it is 2 and 3 or whether it is 2. So which means the only thing that I need to spend time is looking at the statement 3. Okay. So now what do you do in such cases? So you will rate your favorite. Yeah. So Paris, excellent. Good. Good, Abhishek. So what will you do when you have a question like this? I don't know. You'll pray to your favorite god maybe, and if the god is able to help, maybe your bhakti towards the god will improve. Yeah. So so in this case, as it happens, the answer is B. So India was instrumental. Now I'll tell you one more thing, and I think please note this point. Whenever it is related to agriculture, no, at a global level, agriculture at a global level, agriculture at a global level, always remember this guy. There is a high probability that they are involved in it. Even in the last few classes when we talked about sustainable agriculture and some of the other terms, we kept on coming back to Food and Agriculture Organization. Do you remember some of the current affairs news article in which FAO was constantly coming? The moment you get to know that it is Food and Agriculture Organization, you will anyway know, okay, so it was not intergovernmental, it was a purely UN kind of an organization. So you'll be more confident that option 3 is incorrect. Am I making sense to you? Yeah, so please remember, whenever anything to do with agriculture, because it is directly related to food security, FAO comes in a big way. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Oh, this once again IR. Okay, consider the following pairs, towns sometimes mentioned in news. Mentioned in news and country. Okay, Aleppo, Syria. What are they saying? Aleppo, Kirkuk, Mosul, Mazar-e-Sharif. Okay. Now, if whatever IR we have read so far, which statement do you think you will be able to at least match one? You say, hey, this is for sure, yeah. I know about out of 1 to 4. I know. Excellent, guys. I'm so happy you remember it. So, Mazar-e-Sharif we discussed when we talked about Afghanistan. Great. So, I will know that 4 to pakka hai. 4 is for sure there. So, what I'll do? Which options do not contain 4? This does not contain 4. This does not. Oh, that's now cool. All that I have to see is whether 1 is correct or 3 is correct. Asha, let me tell you here, somehow, I don't know whether it was our typing error or whether it was an UPSC. This option was originally 2 and 4. Okay, so had it been 2 and 4, then none of them is correct. Okay, so I deliberately made it to 1 and 4. Okay, you please check 2018 paper from your end also. If it is 2 and 4, then the question itself is wrong. So I didn't have the time to go and check the once again the original UPSC paper, but please have a look at it, and if anyone can message me, WhatsApp me as to what you found out, it will be helpful. Okay, 4 you have all understood. Any idea, guys? Mosul, have you heard Mosul? It was in news for a very long time. Yeah, exactly. ISIS is Mosul is actually Iraq, guys. Yeah, Mosul is Iraq. ISIS, you are right. Mosul is also right. It is Iraq. Yeah, that is why it is called Islamic State of what is it? Iraq and Syria. Yeah, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. So Mosul. So this is wrong. Okay, Kirkuk is also another province in your Iraq. Even if you didn't know, Aleppo, you would have, even if you have casually glanced at the newspaper, no, Aleppo was coming in a big way in the newspaper. Yeah, there was this proxy war between the Aleppo bombing, proxy war between the Russian-backed forces, which was backing their president Assad, ASSAD Assad, and the rebels which are backed by the United States. Yeah. So Aleppo, I could immediately find out that, hey, this is the Syria hai, and 1 and 4. So that is why I was a little troubled when I didn't find 1 and 4 option at all. So I've changed B to 1 and 4. You also check it whether what the actual question was. Yeah. Great. Let's move on to the next one. With reference to circumstances in Indian agriculture, the concept of conservation agriculture. Okay, so they're asking something about conservation agriculture. Assumes significance. Which of the following fall under the conservation agricultural practice? So any guess, or how should we proceed? We've talked about sustainable agriculture also in our class. So which one do you think is for sure there? Which one do you think is for sure? Out of 5, this and this are there, or at least 1 is there. So let's start eliminating. Yeah, conservation. So when you say conservation agriculture, what are all the things you will conserve? You will 2 and 4 is there. Okay, so you will conserve for sure the soil. Good. Yeah, you're right, Bhavna. So I also feel this is true. So minimum tillage is there, and this is there. What are 2 and 4 doing? 2 and 4 are helping me in soil conservation, and it is talking about conservation. 2 and 4 is definitely there. So let me strike off options which do not have both 2 and 4. Unfortunately, only 1 I am able to strike off. Oh, 2 I am able to strike off. Oh, good. 2 and 4. Oh, now this has become a very easy, no? Is it that easy? Using crop residues to cover soil surface, adopting minimum tillage, and this does not have 4, this does not have 2. Now this both have 2, both have 4, both have 5, which means what is the only thing that I need to look at, whether statement 3 is correct or not. What do you think? Three is correct is avoiding cultivation of plantation crops. Okay. So you are right, Vaibhav and Arun. Avoiding cultivation of plantation crops. The answer for this is 2, 4, and 5. 2, 4, and 5. So let's just look at it. 2 talks about minimum tillage. So minimum tillage means you are actually doing a water conservation also. Okay. And 4, you are doing soil conservation and moisture conservation both. And 5, adopting spatial and temporal crop sequencing and crop rotation. Yeah, which we have discussed. If you remember, we looked at strip farming. Yeah, I'm explaining that now. Adopting spatial and temporal crop sequencing. Spatial means what? In space. So if this is the field, this is crop 1. And this is crop 2. And this is crop 3. This is crop 3. This is crop 3. So that is your spatial. Now then comes your temporal. So spatial may what? All the 3 crops are done at the same time. Temporal may one after another. So when all 3 crops are done at the same time, you call it a strip cropping or polyvarietal cultivation. But when it comes to temporal, the better name is what is it? Crop rotation. Okay. Now the doubt that Abhishek and Vaibhav have raised, that's exactly the same doubt I had. Avoiding the monoculture practice seems to be a cake. It has to be. Yeah, it has to be, because the moment you have monoculture practice, it cannot really be a conservation agriculture, because if you look at it, avoid monoculture practice is also indirectly point number 5. Do you agree? Because you're doing crop rotation, crop sequencing. Yeah. But once again, this is that quirkiness of the UPSC paper. And here, how you approach becomes important. What I mean to say is, specifically to you, Vaibhav and Abhishek, the learning that I had from this question was, of the 5, the way Bhavna has zeroed in, I had the same doubt. Okay, let me start with 1. Then what I did, okay, A for sure is there, D for sure is there. That's how I actually started answering this question. Then I saw, no, zero tillage is very important. Crop residue is even more important, because these are soil management practices. Then one thing I did was to look at our own, what have we said about sustainable agriculture. So I'll just, what clicked in my mind when I had this problem. Yeah, you remember this sustainable agriculture? In that, if you look at it, we said cropping pattern. For sure, cropping pattern has to be there in the option. That's how I started. Cropping pattern to pakka hai. Biofertilizer is not given in the option, so I'll leave it. Soil management is given in the option. So I felt that by the definition of sustainable agriculture, or in this case conservation agriculture, these two have to be there. So if these two have to be there, I better go by whatever options contain these two options. That's how I got to this. Yeah. But if there was an option like 1, 2, 4, and 5, then I would have gone for that option. But unfortunately, there is no option. No. Because if you, to answer you guys the other way around is, if you are saying 1 is definitely, it is not a conservation agriculture, but along with it, it is clubbed with 3, avoiding cultivation of plantation crops. Okay. So, if there was an option that all of the above, then it would have been better. It would have been better. But we don't have an option of all of the above also. So we are kind of a little constrained on arriving at the correct option. Is it clear, guys? Anyone has any further questions? Okay, so let's move on. The term sixth mass extinction or sixth extinction, the term sixth mass extinction or sixth extinction is often mentioned in the news. Yeah, I think this we had also covered. So what do you think it is? Which option do you think it is? We even talked about that lady writer, no, who has written the book by the same name, Sixth Extinction. Read through it. Take your time. No problem. Okay, so two of you are saying D. Prachi says C. Bhavna C. Sixth extinction. Abhishek A. Okay. Navina D. Arun D. Sagarika D. Okay. Majority D seems to be the majority. Okay. Using the context of native ecosystem. The first one is about agriculture. So if you look at where did we see the sixth extinction? If you look at it, where did we look at sixth extinction? We looked at sixth extinction when we were talking about I don't know which context we exactly said, but the book of sixth extinction also deals with the fact that the current global warming temperatures, the pace at which they are going, and the current status of ecosystem on account of global warming, it is clearly not sustainable. That is what the book also states. Yeah. So the most appropriate answer for this one is D. Okay, yeah, it is climate change. So the most appropriate option for this is D, even though there may be closer options. See, it's good that you guys have eliminated B. B for sure looks like a pure fantasy. I mean, it can happen, but that is not what sixth extinction refers to. Okay. A, C, and D are somewhat related to a doomsday scenario. That is also clear. And A and C are also similar in a way that both are touching on agriculture. Okay. But if you look at D, the option is very, very widespread. Natural resources, fragmentation of natural habitats, destruction of ecosystem, pollution, and global climate change. So it touches upon everything. Yeah. And which is what the sixth extinction is all about. So the correct answer to this question is option B. With reference to genetically modified mustard developed in India, consider the following statements. So this is what 20. We are still in 2018, right? Oh my God. Okay, we're still in 2018. Consider the following statement. So this is a direct factual. So this is one of those questions which are current affairs and direct factual. Yeah, if you have kept pace of the current affairs when it came, you would be able to answer. Otherwise, you will not be able to answer. So in this, since I did not know this answer, so what are all the things that I learned from this question? So one thing I learned from this question is, as always, there is one option on organization, which means it reinforces the fact that we need to be cautious of or cognizant of which organization does what role. Okay, so that is one thing I learned. GM mustard had genes that allow plants to cross pollination, hybridization. I have no idea. Unless I have studied it, I'll not be able to. GM mustard has genes of a soil bacterium that give the plant a property of pest resistance. This also, unless I am from botany or microbiology or genetics, I will not be able to do. Okay. Yeah, cross pollination we had discussed. You're right, Prachi. Maybe I had just mentioned it as a passing reference. Good that you remembered. I have kind of forgotten it. So okay. So what is this Delhi University South Campus mission that is being done there? Is it? So you're saying option. The correct answer is B. Okay. Oh, that is being done there. Oh, pretty much where you're studying. By any chance, did you do it, or someone of your profs did it? Because otherwise, it's a little difficult to oh, nice, good, guys. So unless you are a genetics master's guy, I think this question is a little difficult to answer, but it's okay. Now, if you look at it, oh, you were a part of it. Excellent question. Excellent. So if you look at it, let's look at this question. This was question number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've done 10 questions, and I believe we have been able to reasonably do well in 6 to 7 questions. Am I right? We've been able to reasonably do in 6 to 7. That run rate is good enough, guys. Because 10 out of 10 is not just possible. Not possible for you, not possible for me, not possible even for an expert person. Okay. 7 is a good run rate, I would say. Okay. Which of the following statements best describes carbon fertilization? Carbon fertilization. Okay. Carbon fertilization. I don't think we have discussed this term in the class. Nevertheless, let's look at the option. Increased plant growth due to increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So first what I'll do is I'll try to see if this is logically also true. Increased plant growth. So if there is increased CO2, if the CO2 is high, can I say the photosynthesis will be high? Photosynthesis is also high. So CO2 is directly proportional to photosynthesis. So I don't know whether the statement is right or not, but what I know, see, two things here. I don't know whether this is called carbon fertilization, but what I have understood is this statement seems to be logically correct. This statement seems to be logically correct. Okay, so I'll just keep it at the back of my mind. Increased temperature of Earth due to increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, can someone tell me when you look at the statement, what will your hunch be? Will your hunch be this probably looks right, or will your hunch be that this probably looks wrong? Because these are the things that will really determine this. So just think about it. So Arun is very quick. He says it is probably wrong. Anyone else? What does your hunch say? Right, because of global warming. Okay. Wow. So that's a divided house. Right, wrong, right, wrong. So you're right. So that's a definition of global warming. Now, it is global warming. Okay. Now, fertilization. Did we discuss the term fertilization in a different context? If not carbon fertilization, 2-3 classes. Yeah, excellent, Vaibhav. I'm coming to that. 2-3 classes before we talked. Yeah, we talked about fertilization elsewhere. Where was it? It was not carbon, but I used the word dash fertilization when we talked of geoengineering. Yeah, urea, nitrogen. So we talked about ocean fertilization. Ocean fertilization, which means when you talk of fertilization, the context that you should understand wherever you come across fertilization, it is generally a positive concept. Fertilization means increase in growth. Fertilization means enrichment. Fertilization means nourishment. Okay. Now, with that as the background, my hunch was I would most probably, like some of you, would think that this is wrong. Because fertilization is synonymous to nourishment. Because go back to ocean fertilization. Only the last class we did ocean fertilization. So please go back to ocean fertilization. We talked of urea, we talked of iron fertilization. Okay, this is probably wrong. That's my hunch. Increased acidity of oceans as a result of increased concentration of carbon dioxide. So they are once again talking of acidity. So it is somewhat in a negative context. Yeah, increased acidity. So, but everywhere they are smart enough to all options related to carbon dioxide. Adaptation of all living beings on Earth to the climate change brought about an increased concentration of carbon dioxide. Adaptation of all living beings on Earth to the climate change brought about an increased concentration. So this somehow doesn't look logical. I'm not able to understand also. English may what they are trying to say, I'm not able to understand also. So I'll probably say this doesn't look like D. Okay, so I've eliminated D. Then I go back to the meaning of this definition, fertilization. So whenever they say fertilization, it's a positive concept. Yeah, perhaps that's the googling the question. The moment you say carbon fertilization, increase in carbon dioxide, we think is a negative connotation. Yeah, we think it is a negative connotation. Under normal circumstances, it is negative connotation. But in this case, because the term fertilization has been used, it is a positive connotation. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is option A. So it's actually increased plant growth due to increased concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, the interesting thing is greater emission of CO2 is bad. It's definitely bad. Yeah. Suppose if you say, so is carbon fertilization good for the humanity? Answer is no. Need not necessarily be good for the humanity because on one hand there is increase in carbon dioxide. On the other hand, if you are doing deforestation, there will not be enough plants to make use of the increased carbon dioxide. Okay. So to that extent, it is not good for human beings. but it is good for plant. And the question has been framed in a way it talks about carbon fertilization, which is equivalent to carbon nourishment. Okay, guys. Let's move on to the next one. Question number 12. With reference to agriculture soil, consider the following statements. A high content of organic matter in soil, high content of organic matter. Okay, organic matter. Soil drastically reduces its water holding capacity. Organic matter. Okay, organic matter means decaying plant and animal. Okay, drastically. Okay, so they are trying to use an extreme state. So I'm just a cautious. I'm not making any decisions now, but I'm just a cautious. Yeah. Okay, so they're saying drastically reduce means just a drop. Okay, so I will keep this statement under observation. Soil does not play a role in sulfur cycle. Okay. So this may be what I'll do is I'll immediately go back to the basic fundamentals and I'll look at what are all the gaseous cycle, what are all the nutrient cycle we have discussed. We've discussed carbon dioxide, oxygen, nitrogen, what else? Water, all this cycle we discussed. And we called this as gaseous cycle. Do you remember? We called this as gaseous cycle. And there was only two cycles, which were phosphorus and sulfur, which were called as the sedimentary cycle. Do you recollect that? Someone has answered also. One is most probably wrong. You must hold water. Sulfur is sedimentary. Superb, Weber. So let me first come to the thing where both seem to be in agreement, Weber. So both of us are saying that sulfur is sedimentary. So sulfur for sure does not play a role. Which means this statement is incorrect. What it is asked are correct. So what I'll do is promptly I will delete options which has to. Soil does not play any role in sulfur cycle. Okay, because sulfur cycle is sedimentary, we just discussed. Now, my whole job is now only to determine which statement is correct, whether statement 1 is correct or not. If you have paucity of time, you need not even look at option 3, the statement 3. Are you able to understand? Because both B and C have 3, which means for sure 3 is correct. The only thing that you have to see is whether 1 is also correct. High content of organic matter in soil drastically reduces its water holding capacity. Now, what kind of soil generally have good water holding capacity? Do sandy soil have good water holding capacity? How about the humus content in sandy soil? Let's do the reverse logic. No. Yeah, sandy soil, they don't. Now the question comes, do sandy soil have a high organic content? The answer is once again no. Yeah. But we know that clay soil has one of the very good water holding capacity. But yeah, it has one of the best water holding capacity. And think about it, organic content. So when something is organic, plant and animal waste, and when that gets mixed with water, what does it do? It improves the water holding capacity. Improves the water holding capacity. So in all probability, this is also correct. Yeah. So there is an option called B. Yeah. So the answer is indeed B. Okay. Does anyone has any questions on this? Yeah. Are also extreme strengthens. You are right. But now we know what is happening. UPSC is also understanding how the students are getting guided by the various coaching institutes. So now I saw in 2021 there were some extreme statements added which were correct also. Okay. The first rule is there is no substitute for preparation. The second rule is if preparation does not help you, you try to extrapolate something based on your preparation. Once again, it is preparation only. The extrapolation happens based on preparation. Okay. Great. Which of the following are the possible consequences of heavy sand mining in river beds? Okay, sand mining. Sand mining means you know that, no? When the river is dried, people go in, they take truckloads of sand because sand is used in construction of is an important construction material. Yeah, so there is no pattern. You're right, Prachi. Oh, so this I have already mentioned the answer. I'm sorry, but doesn't matter. Let's just see this, guys. How would you have approached? I mean, can someone tell me the approach now that I have somehow not kept animation here? Now that Can someone tell me how will you approach? What does it look like? What is the first statement? How will you maybe just read it for 30 seconds and tell me which statement are possibly right or what seems possibly wrong? Mining does generally cause pollution. Good. I think we can start off with this. Yeah. Mining does generally cause pollution. Yeah. Now, when I take a lot of sand, what I do is the sand which would have otherwise absorbed some amount of pollutant is no more there. So it is kind of bare. Are you able to understand? Yeah, sand is a filter. Exactly, Bhavna. Sand is a filter. So the pace at which the pollutant will seep, excellent guys. I think we are all thinking along the same direction. The pace at which the water will seep into the groundwater is fast. So I'll know for sure that pollution of groundwater seems to be mostly right. Lowering of water table is once again somewhat related to this because no sand means no water holding capability. No sand means, when I say sand, soil, riverbed soil means no water holding capability. So this also seems right to me. Okay, this also seems right to me. So what I'll be doing is I'll strike off these two and I'll be in a dilemma between these two. Okay. Now decreased salinity in the river. See, once again, you may say that when you are doing mining, okay, it is harmful. Yeah, decreased salinity is a positive thing, no? Are you able to understand? Increased salinity is a negative thing. Decreased salinity is a positive thing. So one logical way you can think about this: if I am doing mining which is harmful, will it actually lead anything positive to the river? That is one way. The other way is if you dig a little deep. So if you take a cross section of the river, you understand cross section? Cross section means side view. So the river is flowing like this. Means this is the water. Can you imagine? Sorry, this is very bad, but yeah. And this is the river bed. Okay. Initially, let's say the river bed had soil till here, soil till this layer. So because of your sand mining, what has done? This soil and all has gone where? It has gone into the truck and it has gone into the building. So as you go down, you're facing certain bare earth. Bare earth. Now please remember, when we talk of a situation, whenever what should I say? Whenever you reach bare surface, there is always a risk of pollution. In that case, we talk of groundwater pollution. Do you recollect why did arsenic pollution happen in the first place? Because someone was drawing a bore all the way up to 450 feet. So typically there was no water being extracted from 450 feet. Therefore, arsenic pollution did not happen. But now people are going up to 450 feet. This is not about 450 feet. This is just about the river bed. Okay. So now when the river bed is removed of the soil, the areas which were till then deep are now getting exposed. So the natural salts that were existing on those layers are now getting exposed to the water. That could be one potential explanation. Okay. So again, or if this did not strike you, you would have gone by 50-50. Yeah. So if you had gone by this, it would have led to 50-50 and you would have ended up as either being right or wrong. Okay. Submerged salt has more salts leading to alkalization. Okay. Because it is salinity. So you're saying it's the opposite of alkalinity. Okay, Abhishek. Why is a plant called, how do I pronounce this? Prosopis juliflora, often mentioned in news. So it's a very specific current affairs question asked in 2018. Someone has read the question paper, or can someone guess this? So at that point, so this is again a news item from Tamil Nadu actually. There was one wild variety of this plant which started growing and started threatening the existing plants that region. So much so that the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court, it even it is the name is very similar in Tamil also, Kalyan. You are right. I'm forgetting the name though, but with this Karuvelam, it is that part is similar. That's exactly what we call in Tamil also. So it is actually whoever has read the news for that year, they would have. See, in this also, see, look at this. Have they used the word invasive species anywhere? You're right, Nigar. So it is invasive alien species. So if it is invasive alien species, which option will you take? Will you take none of this? B. Excellent, Prachi. Yeah. So they kind of clothed the option in such a way that even if you know invasive species, it is kind of they have not mentioned the word invasive species, that they have mentioned the definition of invasive species. What does it do? It will compete with the existing species and it will wipe them off. So when it wipes them off, if there were 10 different native species, now you have only one species. So to that extent, what has happened? The native biodiversity has reduced. Answer is B. So this is on coral reefs. So let's it's 3 statements. So let's read them one by one. Most of the world's coral reefs are in tropical waters. Okay, so that's a very factual statement. Most of the world's coral reefs are in tropical waters. Okay, more than 1/3 of the world's coral reefs are located in the territories of Australia, Indonesia, and Philippines. Coral reefs host far more number of animal phyla than those hosted by tropical rainforests. Unfortunately, the answer is there, but let's. I will challenge this answer. So, someone try to tell me how this answer is correct, because I had a problem with this um, question itself. So, I thought I'll discuss with the class here. Most of the coral reefs are in tropical waters. Do you broadly agree? Because one of the things for the coral reefs to survive, go back to the funda, the zooxanthellae, and all those concepts. So we talked about certain symbiotic relationship where the phytoplanktons had to be present, which means sunlight has to be present, which means it is most probably statement 1 is true. Yes, most probably statement 1 is true is correct. More than 1/3 of the world's coral, so 1/3. So they're not saying more than 80%. Yeah, more than 1/3. It's okay. It could be even 40%, 50%. So you have a big margin now. Had it been more than 80%, I would have thought about it. Are located in territories of Australia. So I'll just blindly say, yeah, Great Barrier Reef here. That alone would be 1/3 or 25%. So my instinct would be to tick option 2 also as correct. Am I right? So I'll look at it. Now, third statement is where I have a problem. Yeah, here is what I'll tell you what my problem was. Yeah, Great Barrier Reef, you're right. So 1 and 2. So what I do, 1 and 2, sure is there. So I strike this off, I strike this off. Now, which is the decider? The deciding statement is now statement 3. Okay. Here I'll tell my concern, because I don't want to project that I can answer all questions. I cannot, because I have a problem with this specific question. Statement 3 says the coral reef hosts far more number of animal phyla than those hosted by tropical rainforest. My instinct would be to say that this statement is incorrect. And why? Because of this phrase. Because of this phrase. I did a reasonable amount of research on this statement. Okay. Had this statement been coral reefs host something like comparable animal phyla as compared to tropical rainforest, I would have been tempted to make the statement as correct. Okay. So my request to you is, can you maybe my research is not good enough. That's quite possible. And also maybe I didn't understand this animal phyla fully. I tried to understand animal phyla. I understood what it is, the taxonomical order of things, but maybe I didn't understand it fully. Does anyone in the class feel that statement 3 is also correct? I mean, just because it is given in the key, let us not go with it. Is there any way you think I have missed something because of which statement 3 is correct? Yeah, it appears to be wrong, but maybe factually correct. I mean, but how is one supposed to remember the animal phyla and all? Yeah, far more number. My real concern was the term far more number. Had they said it is comparable, yeah, I would have said, yeah, probably it is comparable. And they are called as the tropical rainforest of the oceans. Yeah, they are called rainforest of the sea. But if they are rainforest of the sea, I would have thought it is comparable. Or I'll tell you, yeah, I even looked at it. Had they said coral reefs have a higher density of animal phyla, density, because coral reefs are thin, means it's not like square, hundreds of square kilometers, they're much thinner. But within that thin, you have a greater density. So density is also not there. They are saying number. So on this question, my take is ideally it should be option A. But here once again, so this is my second request to you. There was one more question where I requested. Can you check from your sources and message me if someone has figured out something? Yeah, somehow deep within me, I'm not convinced with statement B at all. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So I'm hoping someone will do additional research and kind of guide all of us so that in the next class, these two questions can be discussed. I don't know what the earlier question was. Earlier also we had a confusion in one of the questions. Okay. Momentum for change, climate neutral now is an initiative. So once again, a 2018 current affairs, guys. Okay, so whoever has read that current affairs, they'll be able to answer. There is nothing much we can do. So this is one type of question. It's a 0-1. You understand digital? Either you know it or you don't know it. It is a little difficult. Yeah. One thing maybe, suppose you didn't know anything at all also, most probably I would have strike this option, most probably, because it is about climate neutral. So this is related to climate change, this is related to climate change, this is also related. Then what I would have done, no, I don't think I would have been able to do anything because UNEP is equally involved in a lot of climate change initiatives. Okay, so this could have been my one, that 33% probability wala question. That's a good point, Kalyan. They don't launch initiative; they only give reports. Is that what you are saying? IPCC only gives reports and does research. In fact, we have mentioned this in our class also. Good, yeah. See, I think very intelligently he has converted a 33% probability into 50% probability. Even I missed it. Good, Kalyan. Thanks. You're absolutely right. I should have read it properly. It's an initiative, not a report or a research kind of a thing. So most probably it's going to be one of those secretariats. As it turns out, it is UNFCCC secretariat. Okay. Consider the following facts. Okay, so this is an IR question. Regions sometimes mentioned in news and the country. Okay, so let's just look at the country. Catalonia, Crimea, Mindanao, Romania. So let's start with our thing. Any pair that you for sure you feel it is correct or for sure you feel it is wrong. Okay, Kalyan says Catalonia referendum, Barcelona. Yeah, so which country are you saying? Crimea, Ukraine. Excellent. One is correct, two is correct. Oh, sorry, one is correct and two is incorrect. Okay. Crimea is Ukraine. So this Crimea was in news because of the problem associated with that region, Ukraine. So you're absolutely right. So for sure, two is incorrect. So what I'll do, I'll strike off two. Great. And they are themselves saying that three is there. Three is correct. So Mindanao is part of Philippines. So they are very confidently saying Mindanao is part of Philippines. Now the only thing is Oromia is Nigeria or Catalonia, Spain. And as Kalyan has rightly said, and now Arun also says C is the answer. C is indeed the answer. The correct answer is Catalonia and Mindanao are, yeah, Crimea near Black Sea. It is actually a peninsula. It projects from the south of Ukraine. So please look at that area. That is the most confusing area in the maps that you can ever find. First most confusing area is the Mediterranean Sea. The second most confusing area is somewhat near the Caspian and the Black Sea, because there are rivers, there are mountains, there are these lakes, and there are a lot of this central Asian countries. That is the part where Asia merges with Europe. You'll see Turkey at one end, you'll find the CIS countries on the other, you'll find Russia on the north, and you'll find Europe on the west. So it's a little geographically an important area. Yeah, Crimea thrusts into Black Sea. You're right. From the north, it thrusts to the north of Black Sea. Mindanao Trench. Oh, excellent. Oh, is that so? I didn't know that Mindanao. I just remember that this Mariana Trench is the world's deepest trench. If you say that Mindanao is the second largest, then that's good. And so this also reminds me when you read Indonesia also, no? When you read Indonesia also, because we are talking of Philippines here, Indonesia is also island names. No? So just don't remember Indonesia. Remember it as, that Sulawesi, Java, Borneo. Remember it that way also. It will help you. Am I making my point clear? Java, Borneo, Sulawesi. There is one or two more areas. Okay, so just read it that way. So it will help you to kind of, because here they have not mentioned. Generally, people may not remember Mindanao. Generally, if you're a geography student or as Kalyan says, in terms of trench and any specific geographical feature, you will remember it. Otherwise, it is a little difficult to remember. Okay. Answer is C. Partnership for Action, a UN mechanism to assist countries transition towards greener and more inclusive economies, emerged at. Now, this is, I believe, some current affairs must have come, because emerged at, which means it must have been in news. So whatever is the option, that's the option. So option is B. By the way, this option in our class, if you remember, at least 2-3 times I have mentioned this term, Rio plus 20. Do you remember this term? Rio plus 20 summit. Why? Because 2012 is equal to 1992 plus 20. Yeah. So this was also Rio and this is also Rio. That's why it's called as Rio plus 20. Direct factual questions means either you know it or you don't know. Yeah. And appears to me that it was in current affairs at that point in time. So if you know where Pakhui Wildlife Sanctuary is located, then you might you get it. Otherwise, there is no way you could get it. Yeah. But any guesses? If you were to choose 50-50, Bon Bunega Crore Prati 50-50 option, A. Oh, good. So many of you have said A. Nice. I think A is the answer also. Yeah, answer is indeed A. Good, guys. Good. The next question. The definition of critical wildlife habitat is incorporated in the Forest Rights Act. Okay, it's incorporated in the Forest Rights Act. For the first time in India, beggars have been given habitat rights. For the first time means it's a current affairs news. Yeah, in that year. Doesn't matter. At least just remember beggars. Union Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change officially decides and declares habitat rights for primitive and vulnerable tribes. Okay. Any idea how would you approach this question? How do you approach this question? Critical wildlife habitat. So I also realized, yeah, so while talking about Forest Rights Act, I have not touched critical wildlife habitat as a term. Yeah. Abhishek, that's a good guess, Abhishek. 3 is indeed incorrect. It is indeed incorrect. And I also thought Ministry of Tribal Affairs, but the reason is different. It is done at a state government and at a what should I say, at the respective village level. Yeah, but 3 is the incorrect state. So if you can strike off, if you can strike off 3, then you have one. Oh, excellent. Yeah. So in this case, if you look at it, if you are able to strike off statement 3, then there is only one statement that is pending. Yeah, it is done at Gram Sabha level. Yeah. So that is the right way to have approached this question, Abhishek, even though the rationale was not correct, but the outcome was anyway correct. Yeah. So 3 is indeed a incorrect statement. And that also, I feel, guys, is a way in which you can approach some of these questions. It is impossible to know everything. Okay. So go logical and find which part do you think appears to be either definitely correct or definitely incorrect, or most probably correct or most probably incorrect. That's a common theme that you follow, even when I'm sure very soon you'll be joining a lot of test series. So please follow this common approach. Okay. So critical wildlife. So as it happens, in 2018, these two were in news for one reason or the other, and the answer is A, 1 and 2. Consider the following. Which of the above spread plant diseases? So this is again, the 10% of environment basics, because I don't think this is biodiversity. This is definitely not pollution and climate change. So 10% may, what is the logic that you will apply, guys? Which of the above, ideally it should have been, can spread plant diseases? Which of the above can spread plant diseases? So let's go one by one. Can birds spread plant diseases? So let's answer it this way. Can birds spread plant diseases? Yes. Okay. Now, suppose I think of a hummingbird. Okay. So what do birds do? So other than spreading this, exactly, that's the word I was looking for, Prachi. Birds are pollinators. Now the question becomes easier. This is an excellent way to think about the question a different way. If something can spread disease, what does that mean? It is acting as a vector. Vector as in mosquito, malaria, that vector. Now, if you again look at the question, you get a new perspective. You say, wow, and now it's a relatively easy cakewalk. Are birds involved in pollination? Yes, if they are involved in pollination, they can also spread plant diseases. How about rain, water falling, going down? That is also possible. How about dust? By all means, yes. Wind? By all means, yes. So if you look at it that way, all these can be called as agents of pollination. Okay. And therefore, all of these can also be potential sources of spreading plant disease. Okay. But I really don't know why did they put dust and wind as separate. Yeah, wind invariably has some dust in India and abroad. So, but anyway, I think that's what UPSC is. So the answer for this question is all of the above. The next question, with reference to organic farming in India, consider the following. Yeah. So tell me, how will you start approaching this question? Yeah, take 30 seconds. Tell me, how will you approach this question? Good. So that is one way of approaching. I'm sure many of you know that. Very good. So we will start with what we have. So thankfully, from a no clue question, this becomes a 1 in 3 probability question. Yeah, means 33% probability question. Is there anything we can do, maybe which can reduce it from 33 to 50% probability? Is there anything we can do? It's a tough one. And it clearly looks like a career. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely, you're right, Arun. So we have to focus on the ministry. Yeah. How confident are we? You know, again, read the the question. One may be false. Okay, so what will it be? So you say the ministry seems to be incorrect. So I'll go with the class. Okay. To me, this is under observation. Okay, this is under observation. Got it, Vaibhav. And Agriculture and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority Function Secretary. So this is a very direct fact here. It's a very direct fact. Either you know it or you don't. Okay. Now, as you guys rightly had said, yeah, agriculture, that kind of a ministry. So surprisingly, this happens to be the Commerce Ministry. Yeah, that's what I got to know because it is organic production. So they were talking of or looking at exporting some of these, export promotion. Exactly, they're looking for export promotion. So as it turns out, 3 is definitely there, and 1 is definitely not there. So 1 is definitely not there. 3 is definitely there, which means this is one kind of a question which really irritates you. We have applied so much logic, but we are still left at 50%. But it's okay. As I said, out of 10 questions, if you're able to reasonably attempt 7, you're there on track. You're there on track. Okay. As it happens that the statement 2 is also correct. I think statement 2 is also correct. But there is nothing you could do. You know, this is one kind of a question which will clearly differentiate candidates based on their knowledge level, because 80% of sincere aspirants will get option statement 3 correctly. Okay. Next level of thinking. So what helped you in this question? The first thing that helped you in this question was your knowledge, Sikkim. Then the next thing that helped you in your question was a critical analysis, which was statement 1. So there some amount of iterations happened. But the third thing, those who are eventually able to get it correct, either they were lucky, yeah, or they had actually studied this statement. Okay. So this is a question that really peels off the students, into nice categories. Yeah. 1 in 3 is a person who's a good aspirant. 1 in 2 is a person who's a good aspirant, plus who's been able to apply his knowledge and look at potential area which it is wrong. And the person who eventually answers was either a lucky guy or someone who has actually studied statement number 2. Otherwise, it's a tough question, guys. Let me give that.